You're listening to Bye Bye Baby, a Dob Berman production. So welcome back to Bye Bye Baby. I'm Tori. I'm going to be your babysitter for this episode, and my two babies are
Maddie
and Julie.
And we are going to be talking about polyamory. Before we start off, I want to remind our listeners that if you're not old enough to know what an orgy is, you are not old enough to listen to this podcast. So, Maddie's making faces over here.
Not admitting to ever having been in one, but...
Okay, so we're going to start off with talking about the definition of polyamory.
Good place. Good place to start.
I'd actually like to hear what you guys define polyamory as first, before I give you...
Oh, you're throwing us with a curveball.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we talk semantically or anything, it's like many loves.
Right.
So,
polyamory.
Yeah, to me, that's
basically it.
Yeah. When someone's polyamorous, they have the emotional ability to
love more
like,
than one person
yeah,
at a time.
Basically. To love more than one person, be in a relationship with more than one person. Mm-hmm. Whatever. However you want to define it.
Right. So, polyamory is defined as having simultaneous close emotional relationships with two or more other individuals. It's usually in regards to like sexual activity is usually how people refer to it. But I do want to stress that this is not a sexuality. Polyamory is, I don't know what you would call it, but it's not a sexuality.
Yeah.
You're either monogamous or you're polyamorous. There's no in between there.
Yeah. So
that being said, you can be in a polyamorous relationship without being poly, but we'll go over that a little bit more in just a second.
Yup.
That actually kind of works into, I want to ask about your guys' experiences, and I want to start with Maddie because I know that what I just said relates to what she's going to talk about. So
yeah. So I just had a swift brush with polyamory. The girl and the guy that were involved, I mean, all three of us, like, had never been in a poly relationship before, and it just kind of, like, it happened, because me and the girl, we had long history, and kind of had always wanted to be together, but she was always in a relationship with a guy.
Right.
And then one day, she just kind of, like, drunkenly told her boyfriend, like, everything that had kind of gone on between us, so she told him, and he was like, okay, cool. He didn't care. And she kind of just got to talking to him about it and was like, is this something that, like, you would be okay with long term? Like, is it something that, yeah, like, it happened in the past, but would you be okay with me pursuing a relationship with her now and, like, continuing to do so? And he was like, whatever makes you happy, babe. Like, he was cool.
Oh,
so,
that's pretty great.
supportive.
Yeah. So, me and this girl, M, we were real pumped about it. We were like, fuck yeah, we finally get to do this. Cool.
We got the okay.
So, we did. And, but the thing is that I didn't have any sort of relationship with her boyfriend. You know, we had like, some experiences together, like all three of us.
Right.
Very briefly, but like, for the most part, it was pretty much like me and her's relationship was completely separate from their relationship. So that was that. It ended kind of on a not so good note, because of other reasons, but like, yeah, it was very short term. It was only like a month or so that we had like added that label to it, that it was like a polyamorous relationship. There was months and months, if not years, leading up to it, but like the defined polyamorous relationship lasted for a very short period of time. But I don't consider myself poly.
Right. So then, what about you, Julie? Any
Well,
experiences?
No. No. I don't consider myself poly. I don't actually see myself in any poly relationship. Every time a guy comes to me and be like, "Hey, so I'm poly, but I'd like to like go out with you as well if you're like," and I'm
Have
like,
you had this happen?
"Yeah, on Tinder all the time. It happens."
Oh.
Tinder. Is
Tinder.
Tinder like a big place to find like polyamorous people, or I guess people who want to have like open relationships?
Open relationships, yeah, definitely all the time. Poly, like people that labels themselves as poly in a polyamorous relationship and everything like very right. It's actually not that easy to find.
Really?
It's mostly open relationship people and or people who want a threesome.
Right.
I know
That
that
threesome
far
life.
too well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've never been there and I don't actually see myself being there, but I do have like a lot of questions. A lot of questions. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, before we go into your questions, because obviously you have a lot.
A lot. Yeah, I'm very curious about stuff.
I'll go ahead and share that I've already shared this in previous episodes, but I was in a polyamorous relationship. It was my first one, but I'd always kind of known that I would be okay with being in a polyamorous relationship. I didn't identify myself as monogamous or polyamorous just because I'd only ever had experiences in monogamous relationships. But after my relationship with L and B, I definitely see myself as poly. Like, that's not to say I couldn't be in a monogamous relationship, and if my significant other was like, hey, I really don't want you, like, you know, looking somewhere else for sexual or emotional fulfillment. I want you to only look with, I only want you to, like, come to me for that. That's a whole different story. That's like, well, yeah, I'm not gonna cheat on you. This is with everyone's knowledge. So yeah, but that's actually my only experience with a polyamorous relationship. I guess we should first go into kinds of polyamorous relationships, because what you were talking about, Maddie, with you and
M.
You knew about each other, but you didn't have a relationship.
Oh, me and M had a relationship. Me and E didn't have a relationship.
Oh, sorry, yeah, you and E, the boyfriend.
Yes.
You knew about each other, but you didn't have a relationship. But you and M had a relationship. That's what we call a V relationship. Two people having a relationship with the same person. Everyone knows about each other.
Yeah.
And there's, of course, a bunch of other letters that you can bring into that. There's X relationships, Y, Z, W. But they get more complicated, obviously. So, like, W would be with, like, 5 people. And you'd only have relationships with certain people. And it all depends, of course, on
That's
the people involved.
And what's the U relationship?
That's
you.
V.
That's
That's
a
just
V.
my bad handwriting.
You, just yourself, baby.
Oh no, that's the dot relationship.
Yeah.
It's just yourself.
But I think that's a really good way to look at it, is like the V, X, Y, Z, W. Or,
That's
you know,
very
you could put
interesting.
it in alphabetical order and say the
She was
the
on
V,
about this earlier.
W, Y, wait, X, Y, Z.
XYZ.
I can't do the alphabet, apparently.
It's
But-
W, X, Y, Z, so
Yeah.
V, you got it.
V, W, X, Y, Z. Yeah, so, like, if you put that down on paper and you can see the points in the letter, like,
Yeah, so if you're
Those
not listening
represent
to this,
people.
if you're not listening to this in a car, I go ahead and grab some paper and just write these letters down, and all the points, all of the
Intersection.
the intersections would be a person, and then those lines will be relationships.
or, like, the end of a line. So, like, the V is,
3 people,
yeah.
and X could be 4 or 5, depending on, like, how
How you look at it.
Right. So, but anyway, so yeah, those would be letter relationships, I guess we'll call them. But there are also group polyamorous relationships, and those would be what we were talking about earlier with primary, secondary, and tertiary partners. So, like, if we were in a relationship,
The 3 of us.
the 3 of
Ooh.
us, you guys would be my primary partners. But
Honored.
if you guys were, I guess, very, you wanted this to be exclusive on your part, but you were okay with me looking elsewhere for companionship, I would maybe have sex with, like, 2 other people. They would be my secondary partners. So, but again, no, it's just like no relationship is the same. No polyamorous relationship is the same. So you can have it as complicated or as simple as you want it. With me and L and B, we had a triangle. I was involved with both of them were involved with me, and they were involved with each other.
The classic thruple, as they say.
The thruple.
That's cute.
That's cute. So, I also, so you guys, we were talking about the difference between
open relationships and
polyamory. So, I mean, you guys don't know what open relationships are, right?
I still have a lot of questions. I don't get the guys that ask me out on Tinder.
It basically just means that you're not exclusive.
In polyamorous relationships, you're not exactly exclusive as well, but
you can be exclusive if you have, like, those kind of relationships. So if we were in a V relationship and we all said that we were exclusive, that means that you wouldn't sleep with anyone but me, you wouldn't sleep with anyone but me, and I wouldn't sleep with anyone but you two.
Yeah. There is an understanding between all of the people involved. So, like, but I guess that would mean that, like, the difference between a poly relationship and an open relationship is that, like,
you don't really
let's
have
say
to
there's 2 people that are in a relationship. They decide they want to keep it as an open relationship. They talk to and sleep with other people, but it's not, like, something that's talked about among everybody that they sleep with or talk to and their primary partner.
Right.
It's just kind of like just going on dates, seeing other people, whatever.
It's kind of the same thing as, like, being like, we're dating, but we're still seeing other people. Like, we're keeping our options open, I guess.
It's kind of bleak.
Well, I mean,
being a monogamous person,
right?
I think that's kind of sad, but
plenty of monogamous people are in open relationships, and that's just because they haven't found someone that they want to be exclusive with yet. Open relationships, basically just not exclusive, and then polyamorous can be open relationships, or they can be exclusive. I do want to stress this, that it's fairly big in poly circles and poly relationships to be open about your relationships just in general, because with that kind of trust, when you're dating more than one person, it's a lot more work, because you have to be aware of everyone's feelings. You want to make sure that, like, no one is feeling as though they're the third wheel. A lot of people, like, ask, like, isn't it hard to be in a poly relationship if you're, like, that person who doesn't want to, like, you're maybe not a talker, or you're not a fan of PDA, so you don't want to touch them in public or anything. As long as you make sure that everyone involved is feeling loved, appreciated, like... So we're really big about honesty in poly relationships.
So I could see how it could be a big problem in thruples, where, like, one person could end up feeling like they're left out.
Right.
So, like... Yeah, that's definitely a lot more work. You have to manage your relationship with 2 people, and then also make sure that the relationship between those 2 people is good. Like, a lot of communication.
I tend to look at it like a friend group. Like,
that you kiss and have sex with. Sometimes,
but
just making sure.
But no, so, like, in our friend group, like, some of us hang out separately. Like, Maddie will come over to my place and we'll have a night together. Or, like, you and Mariana stayed at my house for one day.
Yeah.
Like, just
and then
because...
the 2 of them hang out separately.
Right,
yeah.
And the 2 of you guys hang out separately. Just because you guys are hanging out separately doesn't mean that we're not your friends any less. It just means that in that moment, we're not there. And you kept the group involved. You texted us pictures. You're like, look, we were done. Like,
oh, yeah, that's sweet.
So I tend to think about it like that. Like, it's,
I like it.
It's a little bit more work, but it's the same kind of work that you would put into having a relationship with your friends. You want to make sure that everyone's feeling involved. If someone's sick, like Anna is sick right now, we send them texts. We're like, hey, we hope you feel better. Like, sorry you couldn't be here today. So
yeah, I mean, it makes sense when you put it that way, and when you put it in the scope of, like, a group of friends. It makes a lot of friends.
Just a group of friends that you fuck.
It actually makes things easier to understand.
Yeah.
Like the dynamic of a poly relationship.
So, I guess moving from that open relationships, I did want to talk about 2 other things that when people think of polyamory, they usually think of this, and that's swinging, so like swingers, and then also polygamy.
Yes, I was actually
Bum, bum, bum!
I was
Which is
actually gonna ask about polygamy because
the scary word.
Yeah, I mean, polygamy in some countries are actually recognized as something official. It's
Right.
legalized and stuff.
Yeah.
But polyamory, no.
Yeah, so, and the definition of polygamy is literally getting married to more than one person. Or having a marriage with more than one person. Usually that means one person has a marriage with multiple people.
Yeah.
But in, which okay, would be, kind of like a V relationship if that was officiated by the state.
Yeah.
That would be a polygamous relationship, or a polygamous marriage. But polygamy has such strong negative connotations that
Yes.
I would basically say let's not use that in reference to any polyamorous relationship.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, at least in the US, it's illegal.
Yeah, in Brazil as well.
Yeah. And I actually don't know about the UK, but I'm thinking that it still is.
Probably, but like
We're not sure.
at least
At all.
in the U.S., it's when you think of polygamists, you think of religious extremists.
Yeah. More like, it makes you think of more of like harems than
It's
Than
Well,
something
a
else.
completely
It's actually
different dynamic, I
Yeah.
think, than the modern polyamorous relationship. It's a completely different thing.
Everything I've heard about it, it's like a man can marry several women if he can provide for them equally,
right.
but women can't have multiple husbands.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of why I really don't like polygamy being related to polyamory, because
It's not the same thing, guys.
that's really not the kind of polyamory that I'm talking about, where it's an open relationship, everyone is emotionally involved and consenting, and just, it's a different kind of connotation, I guess. Technically, if a polyamorous throuple or V or whatever relationship got married, it would be a polygamous relationship, but I really don't like that at all.
Yeah.
Just because of all of the media surrounding it, all of the, the discourse. So anyway,
camera's dead again.
moving along from polygamy, like I was saying, swingers.
Yes, I actually got an offer for that.
Swing dancing.
I wish. I love swing dancing.
It's fun.
No, so swinging, I'm pretty sure both of you know what I'm talking about, but for the
Yes.
readers listening who don't know, swinging is couples who engage in recreational sex with others. Usually, it's only in specific situations, so swinger parties. Those kind of that's where you hear that from. But only when both partners are present, and it's generally not romantic. So we would go to a party, and it's kind of like the what is that, wife swap or something? It's
Wife swap.
You mean that TV show?
yeah, is that the TV show? Is
Yeah,
that
but
what
I'm
it's
pretty
called?
sure the guy doesn't fuck the other
No,
wife.
but
Yeah.
no. So I know it's not like that, but that's everyone is involved, so you don't have to sleep
Yeah.
with your significant other. In that case, you would sleep with someone else, and that's part of the excitement, I guess. So yeah, polyamory versus swinging. I mean, it's pretty. You're in a committed relationship with polyamory. It's not like you're going there for the excitement of sleeping with someone other than your significant other.
Yeah.
Your significant other is one of the other. I'm saying that with,
Lots of
air quotes.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you could put swinging more so in the kink category.
Yeah, that's definitely True.
It's whereas like polyamorous relationships are on a completely different plane. It's not a kink.
Right. No, yeah. Do you have any questions about that, Julie, or do you have like other questions?
Well, I have other questions, none relating swing.
What, you don't want to know about swinging?
We should go to a swingers party.
But none of us have a significant other, so it wouldn't work.
Yeah, but
Maddie, are you?
It would just turn into like a regular old orgy.
it's not exactly my kink. Thank you. So, my first question is, have you introduced them to your family?
Yes, but only over Skype because they were in Ohio.
Oh, okay. Yeah, makes sense.
It was a long-term relationship, but yeah,
Long-term and long distance, she means.
Yes, yeah. Long. It was a long-term, long-distance relationship, but yeah, I mean, I would have Skype dates with them, and I had to stay at my mom's after I graduated for like 2 months, so I wasn't gonna like never call them during those 2 months. So.
And how did your family react to it?
I mean, I honestly don't know if the rest of my family knew. My sister and my mom definitely did. They were pretty okay with it. My mom, I don't want to say less so, but she wasn't like wild about it or anything. When I went to visit them in southern Florida, they came to Florida for a family vacation, and so I went to go meet up with them. Mom, I mean, like you would do on like any kind of date, like I texted her to let her know I was there, you know, took like Snapchats and like sent them to her.
See, hi Mom, you're probably listening to this because I know you're really excited about this podcast. So this is your first time hearing about the fact that I was in a polyamorous relationship. So
sorry to break it to you like this, Mama Maggie.
She probably wouldn't care. But yeah, like it was something because when it was going on, I was still kind of like unsure, and honestly, like a bit of me felt a bit like ashamed for it. Mm-hmm. Because you don't hear about poly people in Wichita. Like it's not a thing.
Well, it's not a thing in Brazil either. I just know one guy who is actually poly.
Yeah.
So like it was completely new to me, so I didn't even know how to like introduce the idea to my friends or family, because I was like, I don't know how to fucking explain it, or like I don't even know how I feel about it. It's just a thing that is right now. So
right.
So like yeah, that is an interesting thing that like I had never thought about, is like introducing your family to your partners. Like that's crazy. I don't even know how, like if I were to just like blindside my parents with it.
I feel like if I entered into a polyamorous relationship and they lived with me in the city, and like we were like actually, you know, we like went to each other's places for like Christmas and Thanksgiving and that kind of stuff, I feel like my mom would have a different reaction, just because there's already, I mean, she's already judging anyone that I date. Like, are they good enough? Like, are they gonna treat her right? All this other stuff.
That's what moms do.
Right. But now she's got to judge 2 people. And so I feel like that just, she would judge them harder because of that.
Probably, yeah.
But I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it actually did, yeah. I'm a little bit jealous, let's say.
Possessive.
Yeah, a little bit of the people I go out with. Not in a healthy way. I try to, like, tone it down and everything, and not be unhealthy, because that sucks.
Right.
But have you ever been jealous of any other people involved in the relationship?
I was definitely jealous of both L and B, and I know that they're probably going to listen to this podcast, but I was definitely jealous of them because they got to spend all their time together. Aww. And they lived together, and they had 2 dogs, and that's like, I mean, I know that I've said that I don't want to get married, but I kind of want that, like I
married
want
life.
Right, I want that kind of white picket fence, but my, you know, white picket fence life is not going to be the heteronormative life, obviously, because I'm poly, I'm ban.
Okay, let's introduce a new acronym.
Sexuality. I'm attracted to bands. banjos. I don't even know.
Hey, you and Hemi are like two peas in a pod. He's blanket sexual. You're attracted to banjos. Like, it's cool.
But,
I'm attracted to guitars.
ooh.
Oh, you guys are both into string instruments. Ooh.
We had to have something in common.
What string instrument are you attracted to?
Are you more a banjo person or a guitar kind of person?
Are you guitar sexual or banjo sexual? Okay.
I think I have to say that I would be sexually attracted to violas.
Okay. We're not here to judge.
Yeah.
Classic, but just a little different. It's not the violin.
It's a little kinky.
I didn't say that, but
Okay,
this is quality content. I faced a lot of jealousy.
well, yeah, yours was...
Like,
Because your
a
side
lot
was like...
of jealousy, because I was only going along with it, honestly, because I wanted nothing more than to be with her. Like, I wanted it to just be me and her.
Right.
I didn't want him in the picture, but, like, I accepted what I was given, per se. So, like, it was a very unhealthy situation, and it's not the way a poly relationship should be. I imagine that, like, yeah, there's going to be bits of jealousy here and there, but I think overall a healthy poly relationship is, with the communication being so open, there's not really any room for jealousy to linger too long.
Yeah. Do you have any more
Interesting.
questions, Julie?
So, yes. This one, I'm actually excited, eager to ask you this, because when people find out you have been in a poly relationship, what do people ask you most?
I mean, okay, so there are definitely some things that everyone says, and that's like, how does that even work? Is like the top thing. Like,
Yeah.
especially if they have like no filter, they're like, how? How did you even make that work? Another thing would be, you must have had lots of sex.
That's, yeah.
Which is like, I mean, if you're in a V, not really, because you're with one person, so as much sex is usually...
Honestly, it's probably like half the amount of sex.
I mean,
if
yeah.
it's a V relationship.
Unless that person is like a
unless you're
nymphomaniac.
like at the point of the V, then you're getting a decent amount of action, I guess.
Yeah.
But the other people probably getting half as much. At least in my situation.
But, so yeah, I mean, other than that, I did have, one person ask me if I was poly because I was bisexual. And I was like, well, my bisexuality has nothing to do with my polyamory, except for that I can date both girls and guys. That's like, that's the only thing my bisexuality says, is that I'm open to girls and guys. And we'll talk about, everything in between too. But, I mean, my answer to that was literally just like, no. I don't know how to explain that they're two separate things. Like, how does being monogamous, like, are you monogamous because you're heterosexual? Like,
Doesn't make sense
yeah.
at all.
So yeah.
And would you ever be in one again?
Oh, definitely. I know I would, but I'm poly.
I felt weird when you were looking at me, like, you said, oh yes, definitely.
Maddie.
Like, looking at me.
It's got to involve you.
Oh, definitely.
Only if our throuple includes Jullie.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I'm so flattered. Thank you.
So, but yeah, I would definitely be in one, especially if I found like a loving couple, or, two people I find separately that I can bring together. It's a very heady feeling to be in a polyamorous relationship.
Oh, that's sweet. Maddie, would you be in one again? I mean,
I think I could, under the right circumstances. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think that I could be poly with anyone that, like, I'm interested in. I think the, like...
has to be very
the
special.
dynamic between the two of us has to be right, and also, like... I don't know, like, I think it solely depends on the people involved.
Yeah.
Because long-term, I see myself in a monogamous relationship. I don't think that I could be in a polyamorous relationship long-term. I don't think I could do that, like, for an extended period of time. But, like, here and there, I think I could be down with it if it was the right people.
That's cool.
So, and actually, I did want to mention this. You're definitely not alone, because I was looking up statistics for this episode, and a lot of people would say that they're not polyamorous, but they're interested. Which is basically what you're saying, like, they're monogamous, but, like, they could be convinced to be in a polyamorous relationship.
Yeah. They're polycurious.
They're polycurious. But that's 25% actually. 25% of people would say that they're not polyamorous, but
they could be open to it.
Right, they're open to it. And actually 1/5 of Brits are polyamorous.
What?
Yeah.
Didn't know
that was
20%.
That's out of...
That's a lot.
So be warned that was in 2018, like early 2018, and that was a study done by Bustle of like 2,000 people. 1/5 of Brits.
Holy
Wow,
fuck.
2,000?
Brits are...
That's a very...
There's some open people, apparently.
That's amazing.
Wow.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
So, I guess just to wrap things up, if you are interested in learning more about polyamory, polyamorousdefinition.com is a pretty good place to do some research about it, and then polyamory.org.uk is...
There's a...
Yeah, there's a website.
There's
.org
a .org
for polyamory in the UK. That's pretty neat.
Yes, the UK is very open-minded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's 1/5 of their population. You gotta...
That's baller, dude.
Yeah.
Like...
So, if you are interested, polyamorousdefinition.com for some research, and then to get kind of into the community, polyamory.org.uk. It's not a social media website or anything. It's literally kind of like, right, it's information and like steps for you to like get more into the community, I suppose. They do mention like some meetup groups or whatever that they do. So to sign off, I do want to leave you guys with some advice. As I guess the polyamorous babysitter, I would definitely recommend, I guess being open to trying new things. Like, I, again, would not have pegged myself as poly before I had gotten into...
Peg.
You're terrible.
No. Sorry, had to throw a sexual innuendo in there.
But I would have not I can't say it now. I would have not identified...
Yeah.
I would have not identified as poly before I got into a polyamorous relationship, but, I mean, it worked out really well for me. I would definitely recommend being very open with everyone involved. I guess doing it, or being in a relationship with someone you trust is a big thing, but obviously that's pretty big in monogamous relationships too. That's what I'd suggest for that.
Be respectful of everyone's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Please. That's important.
I was going to say, like, my main bit of advice is if this is something that you're interested in trying out, make sure that communication is completely open between all people involved. Over communicate to each other.
Yes.
And
like,
respect everybody, please.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, I guess that's it. By the way, if you guys want to talk to us on Twitter, on Instagram, we are at Bye Bye Baby Podcast.
On every social media?
We are at Bye Bye Baby Podcast on every social media, and our email is byebyebabypodcast@gmail.com. Just leave you guys with something to think about after this, or after you're done listening to this. Tell us what you guys are, how do I even say that?
What string instrument are you sexually attracted to?
Guitars, banjos, or violas?
I don't know, maybe you're into harps.
Yeah, I mean,
Who knows?
let us know. We don't judge.
Except all strings here.
Okay, so that's it for today, you guys.
Bye,
Bye,
babies.
babies.